Hey everybody, it's Brittany Lachey and I'm back with another video. So today's video is really just about some updates that we received regarding our genetic testing. So I'll be brief with you guys on the first round of the test. So the 12-week test is basically your first really extenuous testing, right, where you do a lot of them. So they took like 7 vials of blood and they tested for a whole bunch of stuff. So you know, all of your diseases, so syphilis, gonorrhea, chlamydia, they do hepatitis, HIV, they do trisomy, and they do Down syndrome, and there's also a few others. So those results came back like 3 days later, and they were all negative. When I went back to the doctor's office for my 16-week scan, I just followed up with the doctor because I had received the results via the portal and LabCorp. And so I felt like I was able to understand them and that I didn't miss anything, but I asked her like, hey, did I miss anything? And she's like, no, everything's fine. Your hemoglobin's fine and everything else is fine. So I said, okay, that's good. So the 16-week appointment, we went over everything, and I was just kind of told that we would be planning our 20-week anatomy scan. So that's when we were gonna go over like the gender, where the placenta lies, and all of that. So super exciting. So we set the date for that, which was great. And at the end of the visit, I was told that I needed to get blood work done one more time, right? So I did the blood work, and on Friday night, I received the results, and they were terrifying. And so I'll share it with you guys because I think it's really important that we talk about this kind of stuff, right? So the test that was done was the AFP scan, and I'm reading off my phone the results just so that I'm accurate with you guys. And so it told us, so the AFP scan, it tests for open spine bifida, right? And I'll kind of get into what that is, but we tested positive for that. So it indicates like my weight, how old I'll be when baby is born, the AFP elevation amount. It was 2.5, and that's the requirement for a singleton to actually be on this list. And yeah, it was really terrifying. I was basically looking at the labs, and it was telling me that the next steps would be amniocentesis, and depending on what we would find, there would be more genetic testing. Maybe we would have to have a surgery within womb. Maybe we would have to have a surgery after the baby was born, like immediately. And that's because open spina bifida is really scary, and there's different types of open spina bifida. And I'll share with you guys. So over the weekend, I was so concerned, and I didn't have a chance to follow up with the doctor because obviously it was the weekend, and I received the results close to midnight on a Friday night going into Saturday. So I just kind of went over it with my boyfriend, and I was just like, I don't know if I can have another child that has a disability. So my son, he's 11, he's on the autism spectrum disorder, and I was a single mom when I had my son. When I had my son, I had been in a relationship, and we were kind of going on the outs, but as soon as my son was diagnosed, he cut us off and went the other way. And we had never had this issue before. Like, we were together years prior to my son even being born. But that for him, it was just something where he was just kind of felt like his manhood was attacked, and he was very much so into like the image piece of it, like what that's gonna look like if people knew that he had a firstborn son that was on the autism spectrum, right? And I don't know what he thought that the autism spectrum was gonna be, but now my son, he is high functioning, and he goes to a really great school. He's got tutoring, he's got the support that he needs, he does karate and jujitsu. He's really active, and he's a great kid, right? So I think his dad is really missing out on a great opportunity to be in his life. But when I was looking at these results, I'm like, am I gonna be able to handle this? Can I be a mom to another disabled child? And it was really interesting because with my son, I had did a lot of DNA testing, and we had tested for the Fragile X gene, which is a gene that comes up pretty frequently with children that have disabilities and their parents are a carrier of a certain gene called Fragile X, and I didn't have it. So I just kind of assumed that maybe Tristan's disability either came from his father's side or it was environmental factors, right? It could have been stress, it could have been diet, whatever they were. I couldn't figure it out, and I took a lot of guilt with that, and I had to plow through a lot of his early childhood with early intervention. So we did a lot of therapies and psychologies, and I just did so much to get him on track. Like, it was to the point to where I was exhausting my insurance. You know, we were having 3-4 doctor's appointments every single week, just me trying to get him what he needed to eventually be where he is right now, right? My son, he's fine right now, and he's thriving. So with this news, it just took me back to that place because it was a lot. And when I was looking at the results, I was on Google and I was just kind of looking at like what that really means, right? So a lot of times, so like when you screen positive for AFP, it doesn't necessarily mean that your baby will have one of these disorders, but it's very likelihood that your baby will have a neural tube defect, right? So that could be Down syndrome, trisomy 18, or it can be open spina bifida. Well, we had already tested negative for Down syndrome and trisomy 18, so that meant that this would just be open spina bifida. So the neural tube effects, it literally affects 1 or 2 babies out of every 1,000. And sometimes some babies who have open spina bifida, they also receive like water on their brain as well, which leads to severe handicaps, right? So there's 3 kinds of open spina bifida. And I'm not going to say them by name just because I'm going to get the pronunciation wrong, but let's just say it's like low, moderate, and severe, right? So your low is just going to be a situation where you may not have any symptoms. You might have a tuft of hair on your lower back, or you might have like some sort of mole there, but you might just be asymptomatic, right? You might not have it to where it's apparent. Moderate runs the gamut, and severe is severely handicapped. And I was really thinking about that. So the open spina bifida is when there is an incomplete closure on the spine, and there's really nothing that you can do about this as a mom. So when you're planning pregnancy, you want to make sure that you're taking your folic acid, and you're getting, I think it's 800 milligrams, because the spine should close within the first 28 days of pregnancy. And this is typically before any of us even know that we're pregnant. So this can either be a rare disorder or this can be a genetic disorder. But a lot of times you would not have known that this was likelihood for your baby. And so sometimes there's surgery to close the opening that's performed during the womb or shortly after birth. Some cases of open spina bifida, there comes with paralysis from the waist down and interferes with bowel control. A third of the babies that have this syndrome, they don't even live past the age of 5. And a large percentage that go on to live beyond the age of 5, they don't live past the age of 30. So I was thinking about all of this, and I was actually terrified. And I don't really think that, I mean, I shared with my boyfriend how terrified I was, but I wasn't really sharing how shooken up I was about it, because it was absolutely terrifying. So on Monday, I ended up calling the doctor's office, and I told the nurse, I said, hey, listen, I need to speak to the doctor because I got these results over the weekend, and I really want to go through them because I want to make sure that what I'm reading is accurate, and I want to know what the next steps were. So the nurse said that the doctor would call me back at 11:30, and 11:30 came and went, and the doctor didn't call me back, so I called the doctor back and I left a message. And finally, the nurse called me back at around 2 o'clock and basically said that the doctor was busy because there was labor and delivery going on that day, but the doctor had reached out to the lab because there were discrepancies in the data. So I thought that was interesting because I didn't necessarily know what that meant. I thought the data was really straight up. So the nurse said that the doctor would call me back before 5 o'clock. And so the doctor did call me back, and the doctor said that she had pushed back at the labs because I had came back with a marker of 2.5, but she noticed that they listed my race as white. And she said that they needed to change my race to black because there are different indicators of levels of AFP depending on what race you are and how many babies you're having. So if you're having a singleton, multiples, if you're white, other, or black race, right? The allotment is different, and I don't really know why. So she pushed back at the lab, and this morning, I'll tell you what we received. So this morning, we received a notification that our report had been revised and updated, and our open spine bifida scan tested negative, and the only correction on the report was that I was black. And so they changed my race, and that made the difference in the result. But I have to say that I feel very empathetic and compassionate to mothers that do not have this turnaround of information, right? I think it was very difficult to process, especially over a weekend. I do not think that lab results should come by email if they are negative and you wouldn't be able to handle them. I do believe that these labs should definitely hold them back so that we can get a phone call back from our doctor and they can give us more information. But during that time over the weekend, I went onto YouTube and I was just looking at, you know, some of our other creators that created content regarding this health disorder, right? And I could tell how they're very affected. I can see the concern. And a lot of times, you know, you'll go through a pregnancy, you'll have your amniocentesis, you don't really know what's going on. Baby will be born and baby will be 100% fine and grow up to be fine as well. Other times, you know, you're told that maybe baby might be fine, and baby comes, baby's not okay, and you're dealing with severe disabilities. I even looked at videos where, you know, there were parents that decided to medically abort their children at 20 weeks pregnant because they assumed that the baby would be severely handicapped. And I don't have a personal opinion on any direction that any parent makes, but what I can tell you was that it was very terrifying for me as a mom of a child that already has a disability. So it really shook me up, but I'm happy that I can sit here and I have different information to share with you guys. And I didn't have to break up the video because honestly, I wanted to share this with you guys, but I didn't know if I was gonna get the results back in time. And I was hoping that it didn't have to be a two-part video because I thought it would be a very emotional first video if I didn't have the results, and I do. But I spent a weekend praying. I was in deep prayer because I just kind of felt like God wouldn't bring me to it if he wasn't gonna see me through it. And I felt like all the dreams and ambitions that I had for the baby girl, like I could still have those regardless of what her diagnosis was. And so I'm grateful and I'm thankful, prayerfully, that she is okay, but I'm extremely compassionate to anyone who is going through this, and I hope that you guys will be fine. I hope that this video was informative and helpful for anyone that's going through it or anyone who is receiving this kind of lab result. Just make sure you're really looking over the data and verifying with your doctor and asking additional questions, right? Dig into it. Don't take anything as solid, right? Ask a lot of questions, dig into it, because you never really know, and this is your baby's health, this is your health, this is your future. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.